All right, peace. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, give honor and praise to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. Giving double honors to 7130 South Chicago that taught me this truth. Giving double honor to brothers and sisters that the Creator has awoken in these last days. With that being said, peace and shalom. All right, brothers and sisters, I want to go into a discussion. Dr. Umar was on a podcast. I'm going to put it in the description when I get done with the video. And he was going off on the cop that quote unquote killed Sonya Massey. I think he shot her about 6 times, I believe, right? And you know, it was a tragic situation that basically happened with the young lady and things of this nature. But I'm talking and looking for something at the same time. But I think that a lot of us don't really pay attention to is that why are these things happening to us as a people, right? Why are we going through a lot of these conditions in this country, right? Why is our people being shot down in the streets and things of this nature? Why the black man don't control his own neighborhood? He don't control the economics, the education, the leadership, and the health in our neighborhoods. It's because we don't want to be truthful with ourselves, and most of us don't even know. But the reason why these things are taking place, and Dr. Umar have been told this before, but because he doesn't have a full grasp of who he is from a nationalistic standpoint of view. See, he loves to call himself the prince of Pan-Africanism. I consider myself a Pan-Africanist myself. But see, the difference between me and Dr. Umar is that Dr. Umar doesn't know who he is from a nationalistic standpoint of view. This man, I don't know if he's still in his 40s or early 50s, right? But he's still running around calling himself a black man, see? We still running around calling ourselves Africans. We may come from the continent of Africa, but that's not where we're not indigenous to the west coast of Africa, brothers and sisters. So if you're going to call yourself a Pan-Africanist, if America, if the system collapsed tomorrow and everybody had to leave and go back to their own countries, America is bankrupt, everybody go back to their country. We would go back to Africa. Where are we going? On the continent of Africa. Because just because you may look like the people over there, that don't mean that these people are of the same stock of bloodline as you. So I was listening to him on this podcast. I forget the name of it. I think it's Urban something. And he was going off about how the Caucasian, the so-called white man, had brutally shot Sonya Massey basically for no reason. She called the police about a disturbance or something like that. He come there And the next thing you know, he shoots the lady in the face. Allegedly because she had a boiling cup of hot water in her hand or something, which he supposed had told her to pour it out, and I think she did. They say the lady was they say the sister was a very sweet lady. But see, this is what we don't understand here in America. See, our people is fighting for civil rights. We want reparations. We want to open up a school. We want better leadership in the community. We want to own our own educational system. And even though those things may be great and good, but we got to understand that the so-called black man was not brought to America to be a part of America. The Constitution of America was not established for the so-called Negro. America was a prison and still is a prison to the so-called black man, brothers and sisters, and the black woman. See, what we got to understand, they didn't bring no niggas to America, brothers and sisters. They brought the nation of Israel to America. And see, Dr. Umar has been told this, but he doesn't want to accept it. Just like a lot of our people today doesn't want to accept that we're not indigenous to the west coast of Africa, that we come from the northeastern side of Africa, which is over there in the land of Canaan, which is Jerusalem. And as a result of this, because we don't know our history outside of slavery, when we start talking about history, the farthest we're going to be talking about is history in this country. Why is that? It's because our history has been taken away from us, brothers and sisters. So, when we talking about this subject, Dr. Umar Johnson, which is look, I may not like everything Dr. Umar does or whatever, some of his antics, but Dr. Umar is a great man. See, and he wants to do something for so-called black people in America. And you have to commend a person like that. And he wants to be a champion for our people that don't have a champion. But just because you can go off, just because you want to be a champion, that don't mean that you have the power to be a champion that you may want to be towards the people. So, what are you saying, Yahshua? I'm saying that even though he's going off on this cop and things of this nature, he has no power. It was a time in this country where the so-called white man can kill you and he can get away with it because you was considered 3/5 of a human being. That's in the Constitution. See? And see, we're still considered 3/5 of a human being even to this day. This is why people can disrespect us like this. And there's not really a major outcry amongst the nations. It's because the black man has failed at an all-time low, brothers and sisters. So let's look at this, man. I didn't want to be real long with this video, but I think I'm going to do it. Is because this stuff needs to be addressed. Just because you're hooping and hollering on podcasting and things of this nature, you may sound intelligent, you may have good diction and things of this nature, but you don't have no power. See, and the reason why we was brought over here to America is to endure a sentence. It's because the so-called black community, our ancestors rebelled against the Creator, brothers and sisters. And I know it's hard for you. You don't want to believe this. You know, Dr. Umar said that the Bible is a fairy tale book. But see, he exercises the same things that our ancestors was doing in the land and outside of the land that got us in slavery in the first place, brothers and sisters. And what is that he does? He loves to say that he talks to the ancestors. Your ancestors ain't, once they dead, they gone, brothers and sisters. They not looking down on you. So even though we want to talk about the nations and their mistreatment towards the so-called black man and the black community, the black woman, but we're not looking at ourselves, brothers and sisters. The reason why we're still at an all-time low as a nation of people is because we do not understand our saga. We don't understand that. And as a result of this, we have become a prey to all the nations that come amongst us. We don't have black unity. There's no unity in the black community. Dr. Umar doing a great thing by creating a school, right? But let's see how many so-called black people is going to support this school. And a lot of times we don't support one another is because why? When we look at each other, we look at each other as an enemy. See? Let's look at this. It says the 28th chapter of the book of Deuteronomy, starting at the 15th verse. It says, "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yah thy Elohim to observe and to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee." So what was our ancestors supposed to be doing? They were supposed to follow the Constitution that the Creator established in the wilderness under our leader, which was who? Moses, brothers and sisters. Which was a so-called African man. So the Creator said what? But if thou shalt come, it says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yah thy Elohim to observe and do all his commandments and his statute which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So what was our ancestors doing in the land? Why are we over here? Why are we here in America? It's because we rebelled against the Creator. See? Thou shalt not do this. Thou shalt not do that. Thou shalt not do this. Thou shalt not do that. We did that. That's why we are cursed people. That's why we don't control the neighborhood, our own neighborhoods, brothers and sisters. Our kids is killing one another over colors, over valuables. Just because you in another gang, they killing you. It's because if you don't understand who you are from a nationalistic standpoint of view, you're going to be a prey amongst yourself, and you're going to be a prey to other people. 17 verse. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land. It says the increase of thy kind and the flock of thy sheep. Before the so-called black man came over here to America, we had an economical system, brothers and sisters. We knew how to trade with other countries. See, we had our own leadership role. We had leaders in the communities. We had an educational system. We had a leadership system. We had a dietary law. So because we started to rebel against the Creator said, what? I'm going to destroy your economics, your leadership, your health, and your what? Educational system. I'm going to destroy that. And the other nations is going to take advantage of this situation. This is why the cop shot the woman in the face, is because why? It's because the white man represents power and authority in the country. Cursed shall thou be when thou comest in. Cursed shall thou be when thou goest out. Yah shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke, and all that thou settest thy hand unfor to do, until thou be destroyed, until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou forsakest me. See, and what were some of the things that we was doing when we was in our own government? See, we practiced homosexuality, brothers and sisters. This is what we was doing. We was following the gods of the other nations. We wanted to be just like the Egyptians. We wanted to be just like the Assyrians. We wanted to be just like the Babylonians. See, that's what we wanted to do. And as a result of this is why we in the condition of today. When we was brought over here to this country, we was not allowed to transmit history down to our kids. And as a result of this, our kids do not know who they are, is because the parents don't know who they are. That's why we can say certain things like, I'm black and I'm proud. I'm a Pan-Africanist. But if you go to the continent of Africa, where you going? See, what are you going to do? If all black folks came to Africa, what are they going to do? So you're going to find yourself in the same slavery that you was in America. See? It's because if a man don't control his own country, and he don't control the natural resources that's in the ground, he don't control the governmental structure of the country, he's a slave, brothers and sisters. So it says, Yah shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it. See? And what is some of the pestilence that was cleaving unto us? And a lot of times the pestilence that was cleaving unto us was that we was following these false gods. See, we love to call on the ancestors instead of calling on the Creator. When we go to battle against these other countries, when countries tried to invade us as a nation of people, instead of us calling on Yehovah or Yahweh, we called on who? We called on the God of the Egyptians. See, we called on the God of Molech. That's who we called on, all these different gods. Marduk. See, that's what we was doing. Calling on the ancestors. And see, that behavior that we was doing, it became what? A pestilence to us. We committed genocide towards each other. When you go into the book of Kings, the nation of Israel fought a war against each other. Hundreds of thousands of us was killed because we had an issue, the southern kingdom against the northern kingdom. See? So we was doing black on black crime during that time. But now when we do it, we don't know who we are as a nation of people. So we can do all the hooping and hollering all we want to. If you don't know who you are, you can't go nowhere as a nation of people. See, we're still slaves today. The only difference that it is today is that when we first came into prison, we didn't know how prison worked over here in America. See? Because we was in prison before, brothers and sisters, believe it or not. The black man been in captivity for 2,500 and something years. But see, in this supermax that we dealing with today, see, it took us time to understand the prison system. But see, since we have understand the prison system over here in America, now we have adopted, we have took on the mindset of the prison system over here in America. Now we can make moves because see, Dr. Umar Johnson having a school is nothing but what? Commissary, brothers and sisters. That's all it is. People become millionaires. Black people, Michael Jordan become a millionaire or a billionaire in this country. He's just a $1 billion slave. That's all he is. He doesn't control the natural resources that comes in the ground. So, in prison, you learn how to move and shake and do certain things in prison. But you're still in prison. And you're not going to get out of prison until you do what? Rehabilitate ourselves. And see, what is another pestilence that's going to cleave unto us is these other nations. See? And this is what's cleaving on to us today, is because, believe it or not, the black man still want to be a part of the white structure. A lot of these guys that talk about Pan-Africanism and all this type of stuff, a lot of them don't want to leave America. Now we have adopted this mentality that the slave trade never existed, that the slave trade happened over here in America. Brothers and sisters, that's farthest from the truth. And we're not even saying that it wasn't no black people here, because the black man is the parent stock of the whole planet. See? But all kinfolk ain't skin. But all skin folk ain't kinfolk, y'all. John Hanson, which was the first president of the Republic. John Hanson was one of the ones that was around when they was writing the Declaration of Independence in, I believe, 1776, I believe. When George Washington, when they was fighting a war against the British, it is rumored that John Hanson gave him over $3,000 worth of sterling silver so that he can be able to do what? Buy weapons. So that they can fight against the British. Also, it's rumored that John Hanson was giving them boots and things of this nature so that they be able to fight the war. But the slaves was first brought over here in the 1600s, right? But we can go as further as the 1400s and the 1500s. But let's look at this, 1619, right? 1619, John Hanson was the first president of the Republic. Then you had a lot of black people here in this country was a part of slavery. But that's what I'm saying. But all black people are not the same. So if we don't understand who we are, brothers and sisters, we're going to become a prey to everybody that comes amongst us. 28 chapter, 22nd verse. And Yah shall smite thee with the consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword, and with the blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. So who was the inflammation? Who was the burning? See? Who was that? Who was the fever? It was these nations that came amongst us. It's because we wasn't keeping the commandments of the Creator, and the Creator did what? He sicked these nations on our behalf. So when we're talking about, Sonya Massey, which was a tragedy, brothers and sisters. But this is what happens when you go to prison. When you go to prison, your mama and daddy can't save you. See? And the people treat you like you anything in prison. You can get raped in prison. You can get assaulted. You can even get killed, brothers and sisters, in prison. So what's happening with the black community is that we think because of the Emancipation Proclamation that we're free, brothers and sisters. This is what's going on with us. And that we are part of the system. No, we're not. And there's been many discussions about the 14th, the 13th, and the 14th Amendment. They say that the 13th and the 14th Amendment is not really a part of the Constitution, brothers and sisters. So if it's not really a part of the Constitution, what does that mean? That you're still a slave. If the black man don't own his own country, he don't have his own flag, he can't dig in the ground and control the resources that's coming out of the ground, he can't trade with other countries, he's still a slave, brothers and sisters. So, irregardless, Dr. Umar Johnson may mean well. I believe he do, see? But Dr. Umar Johnson can't save you, see? One more verse. I was going to read a lot of this, but I'm not, right? I want to read a couple of verses and then I'm gone, right? It says the 48 verse 28 chapter of the book of Deuteronomy. It says, therefore thou shalt serve thy enemies, which Yah shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst. So when we wanna wear clothes, who we gotta go to? We gotta go to the slave master. We want food, where we got to go to? We got to go to the slave master. We want a leader to represent us in Congress, where we got to go to? We got to go to the slave master. See, when we talk about education, we got to go to the slave master, y'all. See? And majority of our history that has been taught to us in these schools is what? Slave history. So our people thinking that they're free, this is one of the greatest misconceptions that has been told, is because if you're free, then why is it a guy coming up to Sonya Massey's door, and next thing you know, he shoot the lady in the head 6 times? That shows you that you're not free. So we can moan and talk and bite and all this type of stuff, as long as we're still following after these other nations. We're going to continue to receive the same treatment that we have been receiving in this country ever since we first came over here. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, peace, shalom.